Greetings, Darklings, from across the interweb. It is once again I, the Duchess Precious Ken, here for the Sounds and Shadows podcast. I'm excited today. We are going to be talking to an artist that's a little on the fringe of the dark scene genre for a lot of the things I cover. So I think it'll be really good to kind of touch on that. Before we get started, though, I did want to do an announcement. I saw something pretty exciting the other day. Our dear friend Curse Mackey from the show and Rona Roghart that we've had on of Sign have gotten together with legend himself, David J. of Bauhaus, and many other things, Love and Rockets, but put together a new project called Shiva Saves. Wow, that was a tongue twister there. But David J is going to be doing vocals and bass. Curse doing vocals and synth and programming, and Rona's going to be singing as well and doing drums and synths. It has Nick Zinner from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Elaine White, who's worked with Morrissey, just a ton of names on this, and it just seems like a really cool, really interesting project. So I am geeked for that, and I'll be giving you more details as they arise. Now, without further ado, from Los Angeles, I have here with me Morning Star, if that's how you pronounce it, because it has like the cool witch house lettering in it always.
Mhm.
But Sam is here with me now. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. I'm absolutely stoked to be here.
Yeah, I've seen you a bit posting and talking in the Sounds and Shadows group, so we've interacted a little that way, and I've had a couple of reviews of some of the previous albums you did, but you have something new out. I think is really exciting and was a bit of a different swing for you. So I want to get into talking about that, but I always like to start out for maybe some of our viewers that aren't as familiar with your music and your project. Tell me a little bit of your history. What was kind of that moment where, I don't know, you saw a show, you heard an album, Satan reached down his furry paw and put his cloven hoof upon thine head. Something happened where this dark aesthetic and ideal uh, came to you and you said, "This is me." Tell me a little bit about how that ball got rolling.
I've kind of always been interested in black metal. And many years ago, I was in a band. And then I had left that project and started a direction towards producing and doing vocals within darker electronic music.
Yeah.
And I would say like it was October of 2018 that I discovered this genre called Witch House. And at the time I never heard of this or anything like that, but I started listening to this artist from Germany called Flesh, who is an incredible producer, and I heard this one song called I Come From Salem, and I'm like, you know what, this is exactly what I want to do. And then after that, I came across a whole bunch of others, Sidewalks and Skeletons, who's not only a good friend of mine, but one of my
Yeah.
good, one of my top influences actually. And I kind of started to go into like an kind of an interesting, very niche sound, although all those songs are no longer available. Um, but I think it was really like the winter of 2020 that I really wanted to change my direction of sound and really
Yeah.
just aesthetic overall. Um, I befriended this black metal vocalist. He lives out of Michigan.
Our
Caleb.
home stomping grounds here.
Oh, yo, you guys are out of Michigan?
Yeah, I'm a Michigan guy.
Oh, nice, nice. I actually I haven't really been out there yet. I'm going out there this August, so I'm very curious to see how it is.
Nice.
But
Where are you going to see that? Where are they? What city are they in?
oh, Kalen? Oh, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I think Grand Rapids. I'm
Well,
not
that's right out
familiar.
by me too. Yeah.
Oh, no
Nice.
way. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with Michigan.
Sure.
Not yet at least. So but I befriended him. He's actually the vocalist of a black metal band called Hexablad, who has become one of my
Yeah.
influences as well. Please check them out. They're about to drop an amazing album. Um,
I now know the Caleb that you're talking about, and yes, it is Grand Rapids.
Oh, it is. Okay, cool. Yes, I
Yeah.
got that right. So, and he was, he got me onto a lot of really great black metal bands that I never really heard about. I'm like, you know what? Like, And me personally, I like to do things that no one's really ever done before, especially when it comes to music, you know. And when it comes to Witch House, it's been called the black metal of EDM. If you really think
Okay,
about it, with
sure,
this,
yeah.
just the obscurities and all, you know. So I'm like, you know what? Like, no one has made blackened Witch House yet, and I'm gonna pioneer this, you know. So
Nice.
I started experimenting with coarse paint throughout that winter, and I kind of got kind of got like a beginning kind of sound of what I have now.
Yeah.
It's very still I consider very different to what I just released. But I would experiment all through that year, you know, and then both musically and aesthetically, and then I don't think I really found my true sound until I had released Dreaming of the Damned just about actually 2 years ago this month.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and to this day, it's actually my top single, which I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for. Um, but as you know, I went with a musically a little bit of a different direction with my first album, which you had kindly reviewed actually
Yeah.
that same year, The New Salem.
Yeah.
Um, but after that album was out, I would have to say that I wanted to go in a very different direction, especially with sound. And I kind of started experimenting in later 2022 with some sound, and that was actually the first one that I did after Dreaming of the Damned. When it comes to what I call the newer sound, is the Withered One, which is actually on my latest album, In Memoriam of the Black Wind.
Right.
Um, but when I had moved down to Los Angeles in November 2022, that's when like I just went full hammer on um, sticking with the sound of the Withered One, and I got probably my favorite thing that I've ever written so far.
That's incredible. And like I said, I'm really excited to kind of talk about this because I've interviewed Jacob on there and Sidewalks and Skeletons, but I haven't had a lot of Witch House artists on. And it's a kind of music that, I mean, for being a 46-year-old dude, the more I hear of it, the more I like it. Like it really, I
Yeah.
don't know, has spoken to me since I gave it a chance.
Mhm.
And I think it is something that is going to be a big part of the future of kind of the goth scene going forward.
Mhm.
Um, so how do you feel like, because you coming from, yeah, definitely a metal background, and I hear that in your music a lot. I would even call in particular, say versus Sidewalks and Skeletons, as a different kind of witch house, which I don't know, would gear to me more like a blend of shoegaze and some other
Oh
things
yeah.
in it, where
Mhm.
you kind of more have this, dark metal, but I would say also a very cinematic sound. Like your songs are builders that to me are meant to evoke an image in your head or kind of play a movie for me when I'm
Mhm.
hearing it. So
Mhm.
I kind of wondered how much, looking behind you, the corpse paint that you do, I've seen when you're playing live, the
Mhm.
posters behind you, does, I don't know, like horror movies play a huge part in your inspiration for your music? And
Oh,
if so, tell me about some of the ones that are biggest, the biggest deal to you.
oh, absolutely. I actually grew up more on horror movies and old monster films rather than cartoons.
Nice.
And I would definitely say that Nosferatu, the original 1922
Ooh,
version,
yeah.
has had
Yes.
a massive effect on me. Just overall, it just goes beyond music. And Begotten, which was actually like one of the last, well, people are still making silent horror films, they're just not like big, you know. But I would say
Sure.
that Begotten is like the last like big one that was really made. Um, the director who made Shadow of the Vampire directed Begotten back in 1990. And I mean, we all know the GIF image that goes around
Yeah.
like the internet. You know, it's the scene of, God commits suicide. And uh I remember seeing that all the time. I'm like, you know what? Like, I see this all the time. I gotta check this out, you know. And then I saw the trailer on YouTube. And mind you, this is a time when the DVD itself would just cost like $90. It was that rare. Now you can find like fifty streamable copies on Amazon
Sure.
on fucking YouTube, and then you can just find the DVD for like 20 bucks somewhere, you know. Now it's so much more distributed than like, you know,
Right.
10 years ago, which is great. But
And I think it's become a bit less niche. You know, like the
mhm,
horror
yeah,
movie concept has blown up so much that now a lot of people that maybe wouldn't have before are looking back at some of those early classics and I don't embracing the idea of kind of like in music,
hmm,
the grittier film, the how that adds into horror. To me, I'm the same way. Some of my favorite horror is like Vincent Price,
oh,
you
me
know,
too.
things like that, where I don't need to see the ghost. I need to see the curtains rustle. And then I
Yes.
start looking around my own house like, wait, did I just feel a chill? Am I, you know, is this happening here too? So yeah,
Yeah, no, I love Vincent Price too, you know, but I
yeah.
would, you know, and even the cinematography of Begotten. If you have you seen Begotten yet?
I don't know. I don't think I've seen that one yet.
Check it out.
I will.
But yeah, like the cinematography of it actually inspired me to like that's how I kind of film music videos. Like I film my own music videos. The scenes like that I'm not in, like the scenes that I have in, like I luckily I have like some people who are able to help me with that.
Sure.
But
Living out in LA, I imagine there's you know, makeup artists, productions, plenty out there to know that are real pros. So,
oh, definitely. But personally, I do my all my own makeup.
oh, nice.
Yeah. Like, I mean, not doubting anyone else's skill, but
Sure.
I know what I want, and I'm able to get it done pretty quick, thankfully. So, yeah.
So, tell me a little bit then for this new album when kind of I don't know, it does. It has a grittiness to it along
Mhm.
with kind of that glitchy witch house sound. Was there any new tech or, you know, plugins, anything like that that you started using fresh for this record that you feel like really became important to the sound you were trying to create?
I can't express this enough. So back in May of last year, I think was really when I started to get the most like immersed in black metal and its all of its adjacent genres, you know,
Yeah.
like more than ever in my entire life. And I discovered this plugin called Black Metal Keys, and it has changed everything for me. Sound, like just the plugin itself just inspires me. Let me just put it that way, you know. Um, and I mean, at first, you know, it was like kind of hard to because it was like, is it like the installation was a little like unconventional, you know, not like illegal or anything. It's just like you had to go through
Sure.
a lot of steps. It just seems so weird, you know. But luckily, like I was able to get it, and I got it. I started playing it, and I'm like, you know what? Like this is incredible, you know, because before, like, I don't know, like when it came to like mixing and mastering, like things just didn't really sound. It didn't sound complete, if that makes sense. You know,
Sure.
things felt like they were always missing most of the time for some of my previous releases prior to this album. You know, and I'm like, okay, something's just missing here. But now, like, I'm able to add like you know, just like what I call like you know, rhythm synths. You know, like like in regular instrument, like band instrumentals. You
Sure.
have leads, rhythm, bass, that, you know, drums, all that, you know. Now I can kind of go through the same formula like with my songs, like all thanks to this plugin, and it's made a tremendous difference.
Now, so obviously doing black metal, to me, when I think of that,
Mhm.
a big part of it, you know, kind of your double bass drum, your like real thundering toms, your you know, overdriven guitar sound, things like that are quintessential to that. So how does that translate when you're trying to pull those elements into electronic drums and more keyboards and whatnot? Obviously, you're kind of saying this plugin helps to do that, but
Mhm.
how do you maintain that core to make this feel like black metal still when trying to burst into something new?
Uh, that's kind of a hard question, but I would have to say like, I mean.
Do you think, I guess maybe are the themes there partially because of what you're doing with the lyrics, what you're doing vocally, where that's what transitions over to it, so that necessarily it's not so much about the sound, but more about kind of the ideas that you use in black metal?
Oh, I see. Well, I honestly get inspired from a lot of this music that I listen to. And themes that I come across, like, or, movies and such like that. So like I'll just like get an idea in my head and think of a pattern and I'm like, you know what? Like, and I'll usually it's when I'm driving in my car, like, and I'm just like listening to like my black metal playlist on Apple Music, I'm like, you know what? Like, this is like a really cool song, and it kind of like like I don't know, it's hard to explain, I guess. I get these
Sure.
ideas in my head from just listening to a single song, or like a kind of a theme from like a song, and I'm like, you know what, like that'll be really cool for a song I'll make, and then I'll just come home later on, or I'll just like write it down and get to it that week when I have some time. But
Do you have maybe an example of a song on the new album where, I don't know, you were watching a movie the night before, or like you said, you were driving, in LA listening to something and it just hit you, where that translated over to a song that is on the album now?
I actually have a perfect example, but it didn't really come from a movie. It came from a meme of all things.
Okay.
I'm sure you've seen some black metal memes where it's like, the girl screaming at her boyfriend. She's like, "Babe, you better not be romanticizing your melancholic solitude again," or something like that.
I haven't that I've seen the meme, not that version of it, but okay.
So I saw that, and I saw it so much in the past 2 years. I'm like, you know what? I have to make a song just with that title, romanticizing my melancholic solitude. And at first, it was gonna include lyrics, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I think it just sounds like a really cool instrumental idea. So
Nice.
it's got like a lower octaved choir, like, and then like a rhythmic synths, bass, and the leads is just like a pipe organ.
Cool.
And then like I add like secondary leads with like a saw synth with like blast beats. It's actually one of my favorite like instrumentals that I've written. But yeah, I think that was definitely a must, because okay, I tell people like take your like music and career seriously, but when it comes to black metal, like it's not all serious. It's a lot of joking around and shit. So I felt that was very necessary for the vibe when it comes to the new album.
You won't get any argument from me as a singer for a goth band that sings about ninjas and ass play on a regular basis. We don't take ourselves too seriously,
That's
in
quite
spite
the
of
combo.
being goth. So no,
Yeah.
and it's funny. I think that's generally true. I've interviewed so many artists now and things like that that I'm always surprised that almost all of them are just as silly as I am until
Oh
you get
yeah.
up on stage and you're like, and my heart weeps the darkness. But like
Mm.
in real life, you can't do that all the time. You
Oh no, no.
express that to get it out so that you don't have to live it all the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's actually what I love about DSBM, because like I mean, it's if you think about it, like DSBM it's just it's pure art to me. Well, you know what DSBM is, right?
no.
Okay, it's depressive suicidal black metal. It's a subgenre of black
Oh,
metal.
okay.
But,
I honestly, I am not a big metal dude. I never have been. Colin, our bass player, is,
mm.
but he's kind of the metal influence for Amaranth for sure.
Oh, nice, nice.
So anyhow, you were saying the DSP, like,
Yeah, so I because like a lot of the artists within DSBM like have gone through things or are
sure,
going through things to where like and unfortunately they will either hurt themselves or like
sure.
worse. So but they're able to express like how they feel through that subgenre of music. So that kind of reminded me of what you just stated.
No, I think that's, I mean, true in a lot of music for artists. I mean, a
That
lot
is
of
true.
it is, people who struggle with some very dark thoughts and feelings and need an outlet or a place for that. So I do think that's really important. And also when you put out a song like that or an album like that, and someone else maybe going through something hears it, they don't feel as alone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it resonates in your words or what you said. So I
Hmm.
think that leads nicely into another thing I really wanted to ask you about is, again, looking at the stuff behind you, like the things I've seen on stage for you, your vest, the whole bit.
Hmm.
Um, is there kind of a, I don't know, spiritual aspect to this that drew you to dark metal as well, in terms of, I don't know, like calling yourself the morning star or having that in there? Is that kind of a part of your both belief system that then incorporates into the music?
Absolutely. Yeah. 1000%. Yes. Hmm.
How does that, I mean, like, do you, I mean, if whether it's Satanism or anything else, how does that kind of go into, I don't know, you artistically, but also just, your life and how you get through day to day?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, like I'm a Levian Satanist, but over the years I've become a little more spiritual.
Sure.
But I mean, nothing's ever really gonna like sway me from like I guess like moving on from Levian Satanism. Like it's
Sure.
I'd say like it's one of the biggest positive like impacts that's been in my life, and you know, it teaches you to believe in yourself and such. And I think Satanism and black metal and even witch house and the occult, and I think all four of those just go hand in hand, you know.
Sure. And I think that's one of those things too, where maybe people that aren't as, and I'm not an expert in any
Mm,
mean, but I do know enough to know that, to me, when I think of Satanism, it's all about taking personal accountability
mhm.
rather than, some divine bearded dude up there telling you to be good and that's the only reason that you're doing it. Instead, it's more about you taking personal initiative to have a code
Mhm.
and holding yourself accountable to that code, because at the end of the day, you're the only one that really can.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I believe in if you wrong someone, whether it's intentional or not, you should do whatever's in your power to rectify the situation, you know.
Yeah.
Um, like I mean, me personally, as I get older, like people are gonna do what they want to do, but I just believe that, do whatever you want to do, just don't hurt people,
Sure. Do you
intentionally.
use that then as kind of a theme that you kind of put into your music? And especially when I read through your song titles, that's what really makes me think of it as coming back to, I've read Anton LaVey, things before, and
Mhm.
that's where it really kind of rang a resonance for me.
Um, I would say that when it comes to the like my occult beliefs, including like my beliefs in Satanism, I believe it's a lot more tied with my the new Salem album rather than this most recent one.
Sure.
I mean the themes are still in there. Like the memory of a dark forest, like it I was thinking a lot about, the forests of Eastern Europe, the Black Forest in Germany when I wrote that song. And a lot of those have like, I mean, pagan roots, which ties
Sure.
to the occult and have some influences in Satanism itself. So I believe when it comes to that things like in those things that a lot of those are linked, so whether it's like directly influence of my beliefs in Satanism, like Satanism and the occult always come back to like no matter what I put out.
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm going to change gears again here. And another aspect I wanted to talk about is you taking this out live. Like I said, I've seen you, kind of do up the corpse paint and the makeup and everything.
mm,
How do you think it's important to, because you make your own videos and do that, to
mm.
kind of put that visual element or that pageantry into a stage show? And what are some of the ways that you've done that?
Well, I would say I've studied theatrics. I have looked at live footage of musicians that have heavily inspired me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that for many years, um, but I really just studied like more, like I would say like maybe in like the past 6 or 8 months, I just studied a lot of general theatrics, like not like necessarily when it came to music, but I would look at old paintings, like medieval paintings and such, and look at
Mhm.
like I love the theatrical raised hand, like
Sure.
when a note is rising or something. Like I love that.
What kind of, when you say paint, like a Hieronymus bot, that type of stuff, or what kind of things inspire you?
And like when it comes to
Yeah, when
music,
you think of, like, you have an image in your head, are there any particular kind of artists, or whether it's, I don't know, Renaissance or romantic or something that you think of that goes hand in hand with your music?
well, when it comes to um, well, I would say there's two parts to this. Non-music, I would definitely say like medieval themes, like horror movies, Renaissance, the occult for sure, as we discussed.
Sure.
But the second part I would have to say is my musical influences, if I may include that.
Yeah.
So I was heavily inspired by Darkthrone, like their early stuff, like the Unholy Trinity. They released back in from 1991 to 1994,
Hmm.
I believe. I believe those are the dates. And their first one, when it came to that Trinity, was called "A Blaze in the Northern Sky," which actually really pushed me to almost mirror with this past album, because that one is like very winterous, cold, and the vocals for that album just sound like Nocturnal Culto, who was the vocalist of Darkthrone at the time.
Okay.
Um, if you listen to his vocals, it just sounds like you're in the middle of nowhere. There is freezing snow all around you, and just it's cold vocals,
Yeah.
and that's like I wanted that theme for this album. Um, and I haven't revealed this publicly yet, but In Memoriam of the Black Wind is actually part of a three-part trilogy.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
so you're, wow, so it's not even just a theme album. It's a trilogy theme.
It's a continuation that's going to go into 3 albums total. Yes, that is my plan right now.
Nice. Well, that leads well into the next thing I was going to ask you is, what's the future, Sam, for this project? Obviously, I mean, the trilogy of albums is for it, but say we did another interview a year from now. So we're talking in March 2025.
Mm.
What is it you want to be talking to me about?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, it's going to be a hard one. I think that I think a good space between albums is 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not really
That
too.
is, I like that. Like a lot of people now, the modern, it's all about, I need to churn out content or everybody will forget about me by tomorrow, you know?
I Yeah, I
And
used to do that.
in
I'm
order
never doing that
to
again.
me, to put out an album that really has meaning a lot,
Mm,
like you kind of talked about when you were discussing the spirituality of it, it takes time to grow and gestate, right? I mean,
mhm,
how much different are you going to be? I mean, sometimes we are
mhm.
different in 3 months. You can have an event
Oh,
that
absolutely.
changes you that quick. But for most people, yeah, like even if you start down a path after 3 months, it takes a couple years to, I don't know, get some wisdom about whatever it is that you were, like growing on and learning on. And then
Mhm.
how do you write about that or express that to someone else until you've had a time to truly comprehend what your journey was on it?
Oh, absolutely. I fully agree with that. I think that's one of the top reasons why as much as I wanted to get an album out after the New Salem with a completely different sound, that's why I waited and took my time with the writing and because like the original product for In Memory of the Black Wind was, I would say, a lot different than what I had in mind. Than what not what I had in mind, but what I actually had released.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we that happens all the time. You start out on one road of kind of where you thought this was going in your head, but once you get
Mhm.
going, like you said, whether it's playing around with a plug-in or something else, all of a sudden you find your mind shifting from where you intended, you know?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But getting back to the influences, though, I was actually also inspired by Zasther, which is a DSBM one-man black metal project out in Alhambra, which is close by to here in LA.
Okay.
And then like I said earlier, Hexablad. I would say that they've have like influenced me heavily, like as well. The other two is Cybox and Skeletons and Axios Link.
Nice. Well, I mean, I like that that's pretty broad. And again, it goes well towards, as I said, I don't know, the core sounds, I think a lot have been done. And what the future holds for most genres is all about synthesis and pulling together ideas to make something new, you
Hmm.
know, by pulling parts of other things that inspired you or you listened to.
Hmm.
So no, I think that's really great. And I think that the world could be hungry for this blending of, I don't know, kind of trip hop beats or whatnot mixed together with dark metal, which
Hmm.
it does for metal to me. When I do think of it, it does have a slower, doomier groove that like actually fits, you know, with kind of when I think of the slipperiness of like trip hop or things like that. So I feel like they do go together and are a natural connection.
Oh yeah. And what's interesting with Witch House right now is that a lot of Witch House artists have like been experimenting heavily, I'd say, in the past year with like mixing other genres, like
Yeah.
you see a lot of drum and bass and hardstyle with Witch House right now. I mean, when it comes to hardstyle within like Witch House, I mean, it's been around for a while. I know the Clepsydra, he's out in Europe. He did a few songs with that style. I'd say it goes well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a show like that, then, and kind of what kind of a room or a vibe do you think this lends best to? Because it's just you up there, right? It's not like you have a whole band up there when you do it. So how do you find a way to project the energy of like a full metal feeling band into just you in a room?
It's kind
Like,
of
do you kind of think on that ahead of time? Like, what am I going to do to the sound of this or set up, or, you know, how I'm going to make eye contact with people? Do you kind of think about that? I'm up here all by myself. How do I get that wave of emotion all on my shoulders?
I mean, to be honest, like when I get on stage, I don't really think about it at all. I just do it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm not trying to boast or anything, but
No, no, that's
I've been told I'm a natural on stage, which it's a huge compliment.
sure.
But when I'm on stage, I don't really think about how am I gonna like make eye contact with people? What am I like what move am I gonna make like when there's a note rising in a song, like I just thankfully I just know how to do it. Um,
Yeah. No, I get it. I understand what you know, I don't think I even just do that on stage. Like that's my whole life. I kind of just
yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't think about it. It just happens. I just so
Mhm.
no, I do know what you mean, but in particular when you're on stage, I might be thinking about a million things
Mhm.
beforehand that went into it. But like I put my hand on the guitar, I stand in front of the microphone, and all of a sudden, I don't know, the switch just kind of flips and you just do the thing.
Oh yeah, but
So
yeah.
the last thing I wanted to get to before we talk about an individual song that we're going to spin out to here is I always like to ask,
Mhm.
what are a couple things that you're listening to now that aren't, influences from your past, but things that you're enjoying in the present that you think would be cool for people to check out in addition to your album.
Um, well, like I said earlier, Hexablad is about to drop a new album in April, on April
Yeah,
19th through Hypnotic Dirge Records. Check that out. I think it's going to be like an incredible album. So I've been listening to their two new singles that they dropped off the album. Um, and another one, I mean, I listen to a lot of new stuff, a lot of older stuff. Excuse me, a lot of older stuff as well. So, I mean, I've been listening to this band called Kaladin Brood.
okay,
Um, they're another black metal band. They do a lot of like medieval style as well, which I appreciate.
nice.
Um,
I
and yeah,
wondered too from some of the other stuff you were saying if you kind of ever did like the goblin or the dungeon synth or goblin synth stuff that would be kind of an influence for you as well.
oh, it actually is. And again, Kalen got me into Dungeon Synth. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't really listen to it. And then he has his own Dungeon Synth project. Actually, I think a few of them. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure. And then I'm like, you know what? Like, I'll give this subgenre a chance, you know. And then I've been listening to quite a bit of it. I'm kind of picky when it comes to Dungeon Synth.
sure.
I'll be honest. Um, I've even done a collaborative track um, that was released. I think it was late last year, earlier this year. One of my friends down in San Diego, he has a new side project, and first song that he released was actually a collaborative Dungeon Synth track.
Very cool.
So that was fun to do. But yeah, I would definitely say that Dungeon Synth is one of those things as well.
Well, Sam, this has been really great getting to talk to you. Here at Sound Shadows, we always like to spin out to a track. So, off the new album that we've been discussing here, In Memoriam of the Black Wind, if you were to have someone hear a track for the very first time to know you by,
Mhm.
what's the one that you think really encapsulates the new sound on this album?
It's a hard one because within
It
this,
always is, because you have 10 fingers and you wouldn't cut any of them off. But
yeah,
no, I just, what's the one that, you want us to spin out to so that people hearing you for the first time maybe get an idea of what your sound's all about.
honestly, I would say you remind me of Fall.
Great. That's a great one.
It's
All
one of my
right.
favorites.
So that's what we'll spin out to here. Again, it was a real pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so
Do
much for
you
having
have
me.
any shows coming up or anything where people can see you in the near future out there in California or in other cities?
Yeah, so as of right now, I have a show in Costa Mesa, California. That's in Orange County,
Mhm.
on March 30th. I do have pre-sale tickets available if anyone wants to purchase them. That's all I can announce for right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't believe there's anything coming up early in the summer or any other time in the spring. I'm having some, let's just say, travel plans being like planned out right now.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, be on the lookout for Morning Star, and you will now be enjoying track 13 on the album, You Remind Me of Fall. And this has been the Sounds and Shadows podcast here with Morning Star. Sam, thank you very much. And everybody out there in interweb land, keep it dark, yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. It's been a pleasure.
All right, cool, man. Good. Yeehaw. I will let Katie know that she can stop recording here.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording as well.